good? I'm Winston A. Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blurred, and it is finally here, y'all. Secret Invasion has dropped on Disney Plus. Episode 1 is out. So it's time. Let's talk about it, baby. Let's go through it now. I watched this last week, so I am going to be pulling some stuff. I'm going to be talking some spoilers, just kind of how we're going. So that's your spoiler warning right now. But I will be sure for the future ones. I've been very busy. I'm going to rewatch 2 coming for that next one. Because to be honest with you, that's where a lot kind of picks up. You get a lot, like you get a huge thing at the end of 1, but 2 stories on the way. There's a lot of setup here, so let's start out immediately. We got Agent Ross. He's talking to this doc who was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. He's freaking out. He's out here being like, "Oh, you don't get it, baby. The Skrulls are here. They're invading. They're taking over everybody, and we would have no an idea who is behind all of this." And that's the thing that's so interesting. You can read it pretty quickly, or at least I did. This is not the real Everett Ross. This feels very much feels like it's a Skrull. There's being a little too suspicious, a little too wonky about how this is going, and of course that's exactly what happens. Ends up killing this dude, and then he's on the run from agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Or people at least that are working with Fury about this whole thing, and that is kind of how we start. Eventually, this Skrull ends up dying, and people start freaking out. And very similar to that's where there's a big difference in the storyline. The storyline in the books, it is a Elektra that dies, an Elektra that was responsible for, I believe she was the one that was behind Cap's death, if I remember correctly. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments. But she ends up being a Skrull, and that sets off this whole chain reaction. And that's the one thing that's very interesting. The secret invasion situation, it's not that Nick Fury wasn't involved. He was. He comes in with his commandos. But it really is kind of centered around Iron Man. And because this is post-Civil War, again, Cap is dead at this point. So you have the new Mighty Avengers and the Secret Avengers, and them not really talking to each other because the Secret Avengers are on the run. Tony is the new leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. Again, this is all comic book backstory for those that are not familiar with it. And so there's this whole push-pull between that, and it's really the superheroes that are really scary, that they are potentially Skrulls here. But the storyline that we go with instead is now that Nick hears about this, he starts to freak out a little bit. He hits up the buddy, Talos, played by Ben Mendelsohn, and essentially kind of being like, yo, it ain't right now. This is not good. And he starts connecting with Maria Hill, who's been pissed off at Nick Fury for deciding to just not be around. Nick Fury has just decided, I'm just going to be up in space, whatever. And then he finally makes the decision to come back down. But what gets alluded to a lot by everybody, including Olivia Colman, who is so good so far. She's only been in I've only seen the first 2, but she's been crushing in these first 2 episodes. As Special Agent Sonya. But Nick is not the same since the snap. He's just not. And it is showing. And so you're getting a lot of people that are kind of mad with him, but he's like, okay, this is like a thing. We got to go through it. And like, I think the big main turning point for me, because again, not having rewatched this recently, and I do apologize. I just had the indie screening tonight and some other projects that I was working on. So I just kind of got to go from memory here. You essentially get Kingsley Ben-Adir, who plays Gravik, the Skrull leader Gravik, is now getting out here and trying to start some bombings, trying to get some destabilization in different countries, specifically trying to get the U.S. and Russia to end up starting World War III and dragging the rest of the world into it, because obviously if the Skrulls can destabilize the planet and can destabilize humans, you can just take over. It becomes yours to deal with. And we also meet Emilia Clarke, who plays Gaia, the daughter of Talos. And she's kind of been roped into this rebel push, because that's the thing. Talos was with Nick, they were kind of leading the Skrull survivors, the refugees, and promising they would be a part of the people that essentially, I don't want to ruin a big speech and turning point that happens in the second episode, and you kind of find out why we get to this place. I did remember that because it's part of like kind of the cold open for the second episode. But Nick and Talos have kind of failed the Skrulls, and so these young rebels are not having it. It reminds me a lot of the Flag Smashers a little bit from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So jumping ahead kind of to the end of the episode, you end up with a bombing that happens in Russia, and Nick is there, and Guy is there because they end up failing. There was the backpacks were going to be marked, but the backpacks were decoys. There was nothing in there. The bombs were already there, and Gravik blows it up. And the one thing that Gravik does above all else, which is so fucked up, Maria is panicking. She's trying to help catch these Skrulls that are doing this. And she sees Nick and she goes, "Oh, Nick, we gotta," and then pop, pop. Turns out it wasn't Nick at all. It was Gravik. At first I was like, "Oh, is that Maria is the Skrull?" And Nick caught someone faking it. And I was like, "Oh God, no," because Gravik reverts to himself and kind of smirks and runs off. And so Maria is sitting here bleeding out, thinking that Nick Fury killed her. And he's rushing over and he's, doing everything he can to keep her alive. And that's where we kind of get cut off, is like not knowing what's going to end up happening with Maria. Is she going to make it or not? And leaving us on that cliffhanger. Now, with this episode, I was giving a lot of praise in my instant reaction to the screening I had previously. And I still have a lot of praise for the show, but that's because I kind of got the two episodes collectively. This first episode is kind of slow. You start off with a little bit of action, a lot of slow building into where we're at right now, and then this final little chase scene with the bombs is really just like, okay. But I will tell you, once you hit episode 2, you're like really in it. Olivia Colman gets even more stuff to do. Nick is starting to unravel even more, which gets really fun. I'm very excited for you to see this. But if I had to rate this particular episode out of 10, man, I'll give it's a setup episode, so I will give you a little bit of grace here. You didn't fall off the wagon. I'll give it a good 7. I will say that I do like the second episode more, and you will see that. Why? Very soon. But for ending on some solid action, for ending on this, I think that they did a really, really great job. So, but what do you think? Are you feeling it so far? Are you already out after episode 1? We only have 6 episodes, so I would hope that you would stick around and see all 6 parts and let that be what guides you. But I would love to know. Other than that, man, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be breaking it down every single episode each week as they come out. I'm going to be doing these. I'm going to try and do them. It will depend. Some of them may be first thing in the morning, but I'm going to try and stay up and watch them with you guys at midnight and then drop this immediately. But it will purely just depend on how much energy I have, because your boy is tired. He's doing a lot. Got the day job. Got Breakfast AM News. Watch that. Got the reviews for this other screeners and stuff. Watch those. Got sketch comedy in here. Watch that. Go follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. All that good stuff. I'm putting out content everywhere, man. And definitely come see me over at Capes and Cows. You know that myself, Coy, and Christian will be talking about this as the series is going on. So with all that, y'all, I want to thank you so much for watching this. Come on back for some more content. And until then, y'all stay safe out there, man. Peace.